Hi, this is Timothy Zahn, author of Thrawn, and you're listening to Star Wars Reactions. Good for you.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
In 1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All
one of resistance.
we are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to Star Wars Reactions. We are glad you are joining us. We got a fantastic show, so let's not waste any time, shall we? My name is Aaron Harris. I am one half of your hosting team, and joining me back from hiatus, the man, the myth, the legend, the David Motters. David, brother, I missed you, man.
Oh, I miss being here, miss recording with you, miss talking to our listeners. Oh my gosh, man, I'm back. I'm ready to react. And I wanted to start this recording off with a lot of thank yous. To Greg McLaughlin, he's incredible and he's with Rebel Base Card, and I wanted to thank him. Becca Benjamin from Tarkin's Top Shelf, Kanata's Castle, you got her on. Ryder Waldron, right? I think he's on the Idiots Rape cast. And then most recently last week, David Jesse from Tatooine Sons. And listen, the biggest thanks goes to you, buddy. All the work you did to keep these episodes coming week after week. You are the one who got all these people scheduled, contacted them. And I want to tell the listeners that, Aaron just really just said, look, man, you do what you have to do. And there was a lot I had to do. And I'll talk about that more in my psychology corner. But he did it, and Aaron and I, we always talk about family comes first, and Aaron does it, I do it, and he backed it up saying, hey, you've got to do that first, and just made it so awesome. He's like, you do what you got to do, come back when you can. And so just the biggest thank you to you, buddy, for all that work and effort. And I'm just so glad to be back on with you. I love it.
Well, it's great to have you back, and you're making me all teary-eyed here. But it's great to have you back. You were truly missed, and yeah, definitely to echo what you said. Thank you to Greg and Becca, Ryder, and David for jumping in and helping out. And there were several others who were willing to jump in and help out as well, which we will get them on in due time. For episodes, even just because you're back doesn't mean we won't still invite them on.
That's right.
So we'll get everybody back on and continue to bring in some guests. But it's good to have you back and good to talk with you again and see what is how Bad Batch has tickled your mind this week.
Definitely. I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and jump into it. We're discussing the new episode, The Crossing, which actually was released. We're actually recording this on Wednesday, February 15th, which was actually the day it was released on Disney Plus. This was this was written by Brooke Roberts and directed by my favorite name to pronounce in all of Bad Batch, Nathaniel Villanueva. I don't know why it just rolls right off the tongue. I love it. Villanueva. Anywho, not sidetrack anymore. In this episode, we find the Bad Batch traveling to an environmentally harsh planet to retrieve Ipsium from a mine that Sid recently purchased. While mining the Ipsium, the Marauder is stolen by a poacher, and the Bad Batch attempt to walk to the closest town only to get caught in a massive storm that creates a stampede. The team loses the Ipsium in the process and end up trapped in a different mine. Mine. Carabas.
There, how quick it is. We're back in action.
We're back and better than ever, baby. The team loses the Ipsium. In the process, they're trapped in another mine. Omega is struggling with Echo being gone and all the changes occurring in their lives. Omega ends up finding a larger store of Ipsium and mines it with the help of Tech, only to get rushed down a rapid within the mine. It gives time for Omega and Tech to talk about how they're dealing with all the changes, while Hunter and Ricker shoot down the rapids as well. They blow the mine open with some Ipsium, walk to the settlement, contact Sid, who's reluctant to help them, and as they watch another storm approach. Well, David, it's your first episode back, so let's kick it off with you. Tell me what you thought when you first sat down and watched The Crossing.
Yeah, I've liked it when the episodes don't start in Sid's parlor, and I kind of like Greg McLaughlin and Greg Cass and those guys. When I listen to other podcasts, it's interesting to hear them say something similar, kind of the not really wanting to see that. So I've really liked episodes that don't. This one doesn't open; it just immediately starts with them and the Marauder heading to this planet. So I like the beginning as they fly into this mysterious and eerily beautiful but extremely dangerous planet. Very cool. I enjoyed seeing Omega and Tech's relationship grow over the course of the episode, and the discussions that they had and how they see the team. It is neat to see that Omega sees them as a family, and Tech does as well, but he also sees things from a soldier's perspective. Basically he conveyed to Omega, deal with change, find solutions, and he softened just a little bit. And you can see, like, what was it, earlier this season, there was an episode called Faster where we see a little bit more of a focus on Tech, and I've liked that one and this one here, and developing him a bit more. And overall, I liked how this episode ended with a bit of a cliffhanger. Not necessarily they're hanging off a cliff, but boy, they got some bad weather coming here, and we'll see what they do without a whole lot of shelter. But hey, like I've said in many previous episodes that you and I have recorded, I'm looking forward to the next episode, and that's, again, a good sign.
Very good, very good. Well, I enjoyed the episode too. It was a good one. Had some great things in there with dealing with Omega and her dealing with the loss of Echo, and then of course the focus on Tech was awesome. The whole Stampede thing, I gotta admit, when I was sitting there watching this Stampede, all I was thinking about was Simba.
Exactly.
All I was waiting for when Echo, or when Wrecker came jumping up out of the thing after they thought he was trapped down, when he came jumping up and grabbing on the rope, I was half expecting Scar to show up and go, "Long live the king," and knock him back down. But it was really good. I enjoyed it. Definitely, it's one of the slower paced episodes, which, coming off the last two we just had, is a needed change of pace. But it was still good. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and I'm interested to see next week where it ends up. So yeah. So let's go ahead and jump into some talking points here. The biggest piece of the puzzle in this episode is dealing with the absence of Echo, and Omega I mean, everybody's dealing it with their own way, and we primarily see that in Omega, how she is just really struggling with that loss. She's kind of, normally when they arrive on a planet and they're disembarking from the Marauder, she's like one of the first ones out of the ship and all bouncy and excited to go. But we see her kind of dragging up the rear and everything in this. She's down. You can see the lack of excitement and the sadness in her. And we find out, of course, that Tech is struggling in his own way as well. But let's talk about Omega and the loss that she's dealing with. You missed it. You weren't a part of last week's episode with us, so I don't know exactly what your thoughts are on Echo leaving. So why don't you fill us in what you think about Echo leaving, and of course how Omega's dealing with it?
Yeah, last week you and David Jesse, covered all of that so well, and I teared up when Echo was staying with Rex. At the same time, I felt happy for him and Rex, because Rex has been doing this kind of by himself, and ever since the beginning of the season. And of course, I haven't been on, but I've listened to everyone you've done. Again, just have done so well, and they've really set up this situation where Echo has been wanting to do more, and we've seen that laid out, like I said in those previous episodes. So him leaving and helping Rex makes a lot of sense. At the same time, it's sad, and it is change. And so, as it flows into this episode, I was curious to see if they would address that much, or just do the adventure, the chore of the week, But they didn't, and I love what Brad Rao and Jennifer Corbett did here, with really showing it through Omega, and I kind of feel like, maybe this was the perfect episode for me to come back, because of what I'm going to talk about in the Psychology Corner in just a little bit, a brand new Psychology Corner. But, there's, in all humans, there's that struggle with change. And remember, Aaron, you and I've talked many times on the podcast about, the only permanent thing is change.
Yep.
And that can be tough on this planet. In the show notes I wrote down, just to remind me and you to talk, is it feels like she has a bit of acceptance kind of towards the end of the episode, because she looks up at Tech, and he gives her kind of a wry smile, a nice smile, and a kind of a nod of the head, that she's learned something, that it is a struggle to change, but acceptance is something I've covered before in Psychology Corners as part of the theory of acceptance and commitment therapy. And acceptance decreases suffering. And we see that on her face, towards the end of the session, by the end of the episode. And so that was really good to see. But I'm missing them. I'm missing Echo. But I'm also anticipating, like they've done earlier this season, they might do a one-off episode with just, Rex and Echo. I wouldn't even be surprised if Cody doesn't join in, So yeah, it was really good to see it through her eyes.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, it was awesome to see it through her eyes. I mean, they're good at reminding us that she's just a child. And of course, anytime a child experiences loss like this, there's going to be more emotion and more confusion and more just general chaos for them. And they did a great job depicting that in this episode with Omega. So
Agreed.
So let's talk about another item that ends up setting Omega off too. I mean, she's struggling with the loss of Echo. Then the Marauder gets stolen by this random masked vigilante person.
Yeah.
Really not a vigilante. I guess they're a thief, huh?
The poacher, yeah.
Poacher, thief, miner.
Yeah.
You know, point is, they still. I will say for a second, when the person was running up, looking at their wardrobe, did you not get a Hondo Ohnaka feel?
A bit of that, yes. A bit of that. Maybe maybe like a smaller version. Maybe we should, instead of saying a poacher, maybe more of
A pirate.
a pirate, a new pirate in the making. Yes.
I mean, it when they came running up, I immediately sat up and wait, Hondo? And there was masks, so you couldn't see a face, but the red jacket and everything just kind of made me think Hondo. But of course they fly off, and of course that just makes things worse for Omega, because now she only is not just, she's dealing not only with the loss of Echo, they've lost their home. And not only have they lost their home, they're stranded. And she has a unique perspective on it, because the only other home she's known was Tipoca City, which has been destroyed.
Yes.
So she's really struggling with that. And it's really, I like too how even Tech was like, well, it's just a ship. We'll get another one. And she's like, it's not the point. It's our home. And she really struggles with the loss of the ship. What did you think when the Marauder went flying off? Because I really didn't see that coming.
No, I mean, like you said, it looked like this smaller, kind of shrunken version of Hondo Ohnaka going up, and just starts feeling the sides a little bit. And the next thing we know, it's being, blasted off. I was like, man, I thought it might be really difficult to get, inside of the Marauder. Maybe they'll end up showing us how that happened, but that was a twist. I have to admit, the first thing I thought about was the Razor Crest. Boom! I thought, well, there it goes. But I mean, the Razor Crest got blown up. Here, it's flying away. And I would say this, that, and I'm glad you brought it up, is that her struggle isn't only with Echo being gone, but yeah, that place that you see as home, and her little space that Wrecker made for her, with is it Lula, her stuffed animal and all that, and that is traumatic, right? When we see people here in our country and around the world have floods, tornadoes, inclement weather, all that kind of stuff, that is traumatic. It is traumatic to lose our homes. So it's more than even what was shown in this episode. So I'm really glad you brought that up and pointed out it's two things. It's Echo and the loss of the home.
Yeah. And it definitely is a struggle for her. And of course, you want to say, sure, they're going to get it back, but the Razor Crest got blown up. So, I mean,
right.
We may not get it back. We may end up with another ship. We don't know. Although I don't want to see them all squeeze into a Naboo starfighter. But yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if they get the Marauder back and how that affects Echo if they don't, because it is more than just a ship for her.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So of course, this isn't in the show notes, but I want to touch on it because we mentioned it when we were going through the synopsis. Ship is stolen and they're trying to hike to the nearest city, and they end up having to take refuge in another mine. There's an accident with the Ipsium. It explodes and caves the mine in, and they're trapped. So they're sitting there and they're trying to dig out. Wrecker and Hunter are moving rocks, just trying to dig out of the cave. And I don't know if it was just me, but when it caved in and they were trying to, work their way out, I went back to the Clone Wars to when Anakin and Obi-Wan got trapped in that cave.
When was there a Mynock in there or
It wasn't a Mynock. It was
a Gundark?
Gundark, yes.
Yes.
So I kept waiting for one of those to pop out.
Right.
So
good memory, buddy. Good memory.
So but it was interesting, and of course, with Omega going off on her own and finding the Ipsium, which allows them to escape, it all worked out in the end. But as protective as Hunter has been of Omega, it kind of surprised me, even though she was upset. It kind of surprised me he just let her wander off in that cave by herself.
Well, right. This is a tough one, right? It's kind of that balance of knowing she needs a little bit of space. She wants to be alone. Even Tech is struggling with it. Wait, why am I going to? I thought she just said she wanted time alone. But yeah, yes, if I'm Hunter, maybe go to the back of the cave there, but not too far. We don't need another collapse, and then we're separated from you. So, yeah, you and I are both dads, and I'm with you on that one. Again, I guess, what do we call it? Artistic freedom, or what is it?
Yeah.
Liberty, artistic liberty.
Artistic liberty.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, we got more to talk about and more to do. Before we do, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk some more Bad Batch. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We're talking the Crossing episode of the Bad Batch. It's the 9th episode of season 2. And of course, we at the end of the episode, they do make it to the little spaceport, quote unquote, that they're trying to make it to, and only to find out that it's abandoned. But Tech is able to wire in his equipment and to an antenna there and actually extend the range of their transmission. They're able to get a hold of Sid on Ord Mantell.
Yeah.
Who basically says, I'm busy. I ain't got time for you guys. And then Echo, of course, is a quick reminder, after we saved your pub, your establishment, and we saved you from your friend at the races, and you owe us. And of course, she makes some snide comment about him keeping track and keeping record and everything, but said she'd be there, a couple days before she could be there. And of course, they don't have the rations for that. But what about Sid? Is she just really selling them out now, or do you think she's done with them because they're now in trouble, or is she going to end up coming to their rescue?
Well, this is what they've kind of been, setting up, right? Since that episode Faster, right? When Malegi basically says, hey, you don't really know her. And I feel like this is just throwing out a little bit more. And again, I think everyone's question is when the Empire comes to Ord Mantell, or in some other planet or whatever, when everything hits the fan, is she gonna back them and protect them and not squeal, or is she gonna be like what Malegi said in that episode of Faster? Is she gonna sell them out? We don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But the fact that she decided to kind of drag her feet in their rescue has me scratching my head a little bit. So we'll see how this plays out there, because we need to know. Wandering minds want to know. So, well, Let's wrap up the conversation with probably the biggest, I guess I would say, biggest tribute or nod to a non-Star Wars property I've seen in a show since they had the Ark of the Covenant from Indiana Jones in the Clone Wars. Let's talk about the Canyon Lion King scene.
Yeah.
Sorry, go straight into the Lion King soundtrack if I'm not careful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was to me, that was straight ripped from the Lion King, in my opinion. I love the being down in the canyon. Wait, what's that noise? And they all start running, and then of course you see them jumping, trying to climb out, and Wrecker helps Omega get up and then falls back in, and then he comes bursting out. The only difference is he didn't fall back in and die.
Right.
It's a little on the insane side, but it was a fun scene. I enjoyed it. Really got a kick out of it because I was I was trying to figure out who was who in the thing. I'm like, okay, well, if the Bad Batch characters were Lion King characters, who would they be?
Well, Omega would be Simba. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I was thinking of maybe Hunter being Mufasa, maybe the father, the main father figure.
Could be, yeah. Wrecker's definitely Pumbaa.
Okay, Pumbaa. Yeah, out of Timon. Is Tech Timon, right? Well, Tech is not funny, who would Tech be? Would Tech be like what's the bird?
Sazu.
Sazu. Would that be more? Maybe a little bit. I was
kind of leaning towards Sazu, even. I mean, he could still even be Timon to a certain extent because Timon's more of a realist, coming up with ideas, and of course, Tech always has ideas and is a realist, but he's a little more serious than Timon is. I don't see Tech laying down and looking at the stars and pondering the meaning of life.
No, I don't see that either. But I was trying to think who else. Who would be Rafiki? I guess
Rafiki.
Maybe I don't know. Like maybe Echo. Echo is obviously with Rex, but Rafiki is someone who wants to help, and Echo is definitely wanting to help. It's kind of a stretch. All of these are a little bit of a stretch, but we're trying.
Well, I mean, if we were talking Rebels, Rafiki would be. Oh my gosh, what's his name? The crazy clone.
Oh, Wolf.
No, not Wolf. The other we had Wolf, Rex, and Gregor.
Gregor, yes.
It'd be Gregor.
Nice, yes. Not Wolf or Rex. It'd be Gregor, yes.
It'd be Gregor.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, we got sidetracked there.
One homage, and we're off to the races. But
I tell you,
hey, it's Disney, Star Wars, all under the same umbrella now.
Absolutely.
Right.
And let me ask you this: Did the planet look familiar to you?
It looked like the one we see in what was the episode you covered it? Where the big huge tech monster comes out, but lighter. Like that was just all dark. That's the first thing I thought. I'm like, well, this looks like kind of the same train, but just lighter, more vibrant colors, sunshine versus that particular planet that they landed on. But what were you thinking, brother?
I was thinking the planet where we meet Quill in Mando.
Oh,
the canyons, the uneven terrain,
Okay.
the desert, the canyons.
Yeah.
Because when he was first flying over, I'm like, wait, is that the place from Mando where Queel lives?
Yeah.
That's the first thing I went to.
Is Queel on Navarro?
No, he's not on Navarro.
Oh, is he on Tatooine? They
They never gave us the name of the planet, I don't think.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think they ever gave us the name of that planet. And if they did, I just don't remember what it is.
Yeah. They got the Jawas on that planet. Okay. Okay. No, but you know what? And then when you see Queel and Mando riding those blurgs, kind of that rough kind of terrain. Yeah, I feel what you're saying, man. I do.
Arvala 7. They did give us the name.
Well, okay, Arvala 7. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I guess I was thinking that previous episode, just lighter colors, but same kind of rocky terrain. But yeah, I hear you. We're pulling from all of the Star Wars properties tonight, or Disney properties. Yeah,
we're hitting it all tonight. We're hitting it all. So, all right. Well, any more talking points you want to hit on before we move into our final reactions?
I'm ready. I'm ready for final reactions.
Perfect. Well, I'll go first. For me, it was a good episode. It was enjoyable. Like I said, it was a nice to have a slight slowdown in pace after the two edge of your seat, emotionally taxing episodes we just had. But this was fun. It told a story. It still advanced some of the overall narrative with dealing with the loss of Echo, and what is going on, and planting more seeds as to what's going on with Sid. It was good. I enjoyed it. I really loved the nod to the Lion King, if you couldn't tell. So it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was good. It was good. Not my favorite, but it was good. So what were your final thoughts, David?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm back recording that I like this episode maybe more than I should. But I really do like it. I'm like, I like anything. We cover anything, Ewoks or droids episodes. I love it. I love it. It's just good to be back talking Star Wars. But I do really like it. It was enjoyable. It had some twists. The Marauder, being stolen, plus, just them getting further and further. Like, it goes from bad to worse. And so it kept adding those twists, kind of going further and further down and more danger, and finally getting out, to then face more danger at the very end with a cliffhanger that it leaves us with. I do love the team that they are, and the family that is the Bad Batch. I really do. And I, can't wait to see, what, the rest of this season has in store. I started thinking about the title of Crossing. It almost feels like they are crossing over from the first half of the season to the second half. That was something that I was thinking about. Or even, Omega and the whole team crossing over into this new team through all the changes that we just talked about. But yeah, those are just some of my final reactions. Really enjoyed it. But I again, it's really tough to come after the previous two episodes, those ones that really build on the lore. And so I do know that's a toughie, but enjoyed it.
Very good. Very good. And of course, as everybody knows, we like to grade our shows that we review, just like if you were in school getting a grade. Of course, you give it an A, B, C, D, and or F. And I still don't know why I say and or, because you're not going to get an A and an F for an episode. But hey, it just flows apparently too well for me to change it. And I say that every week. So let's hit the grades, David. How would you grade The Crossing?
I put A minus, not an A plus, not an A, but an A minus. But I think it's better than a B plus because of just, some of the fun stuff that they did, character development with Omega and Tech, enjoyed that. Dan mentioned this, I think in CWK Live last night. I was listening to it this morning. I'm falling in love with the Marauder and watching that fly into space stations or planets, particularly in this episode, and seeing it landing. I'm like, that ship is just cool. And so I like seeing all that. And just like I said, just enjoyed it. Again, not a perfect episode, but very enjoyable, and I'm going A-.
Very good. Very good. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It was good. It had some great nods. I liked how it built some on the characters of Tech and Omega, and it had the nod to the Lion King. It was good. Good episode. It was fun. Like I said, not my favorite. I'm going to be a little harsher, David. I'm actually going to give it a B plus for the episode. But it was still a good one. I enjoy it. And of course, everybody, we want to know what you think of the episode. Let us know what your thoughts are on The Crossing and how you would grade it. You can always hit us up on any of our social medias. We are on Facebook and Twitter at SW Reactions Pod. We are on Instagram and Pinterest and Tumblr, where you'll find all of our show notes with all the links at SW Reactions. And of course, you can always email us at swreactions@gmail.com. So let us know what you thought, and we'd love to hear from you. Well, with that wraps up our discussion of The Crossing. It was a good discussion, good episode. So, and you know what? We got more show for you. David's back, which means David has an all-new psychology corner for us this week. David, my brother, take it away.
All right. Thank you, my friend. All right. It is good to be back doing a psychology corner. So as our listeners know, in previous installments of the psychology corner, I've been going over various types of thinking errors. And I will cover the last two in our next episode that we record. So I'll do 9 and 10, and so everybody will hear those then. But tonight, though, I wanted to discuss grief, and it's an emotion all of us have had or will have in the future. And I wanted to discuss grief, especially because of the loss of my mom last month in January, as well as due to the loss of my dad in November of 2021. And, those are huge losses with lots of emotions attached. I wanted to go over that. I thought it'd be good to do this as well. I'm pulling from Jason Fry's blog article. He does a really neat blog. And he did one on the loss of his dad. He lost his dad in December 2021. And I would encourage everybody to look that up and read it. And it was really neat how at the beginning of the article, he was describing a bit how he felt. He even said it. He says, "How do I simultaneously feel devastated and relieved?" And I felt the same way. My sister as well, my brother, were devastated by these losses. At the same time, there's relief. And I think there's the relief because, for my sister and brother and I, we know that mom isn't suffering anymore, dad is not suffering anymore, and we don't want them in those bodies that they were in. And something I want to make sure to tell our listeners is to not feel guilty about feeling relieved. A lot of people do feel guilty about that, but I really want to encourage you. That's a really normal emotion after going through the gauntlet that is parents aging and dying. So, not only has there been these feelings of feeling devastated and relieved, but my sister and I in particular have talked over the past few weeks. I've talked to her tonight, in fact, about how we feel weird. There's another emotion. it's weird to be on this planet and not have a parent alive. I had my first birthday at the end of January, just a month ago, where a parent did not call or text me. Just very weird and very sad. My sister and I are talking about all these firsts that are coming up. I'll tell you this, so not only feeling devastated and relieved, feeling weird, one of the weeks after mom died, I just felt numb. That was another one. That hit me. And so I just wanted to share with everybody that these are normal reactions within grief. And just know that, okay? And I wanted to do this, that not only are, some of the emotions I've just mentioned to you normal reactions in grief, but I want to go back over the important distinctions between grief and depression. And I was trying to think back. I've gone over this before. I don't know if it was in Mando season 1 or season 2, or I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. But I have expressed and taught a little bit on here about these distinctions, because sometimes we put them together. And here's something that our listeners need to know. We don't want to pathologize grief, normal grief reaction, okay? So let me read a little bit of this from the DSM-5, right? The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, 5th edition. Our listeners have heard me talk about this diagnostic book before, but here I thought they word it so well. It says, in distinguishing grief from a major depressive episode, it's useful to consider that in grief, the predominant affect is feelings of emptiness and loss, while in major depression, it's a persistent depressed mood and the inability to anticipate happiness or pleasure. Now, just side note, my sister and I laugh, we cry, but we anticipate happiness, and we do enjoy things. We're not depressed. We're grieving, but we're not depressed. So here's another distinction for our listeners. The dysphoria in grief is likely to decrease in intensity over days to weeks and occurs in waves, the so-called pangs of grief. And I know my sister and brother and I are both having the pangs of grief. These waves tend to be associated with thoughts or reminders of the deceased. The depressed mood, however, of a major depressive episode is more persistent and not tied to specific thoughts or preoccupations. The pain of grief may be accompanied by positive emotions and humor that are uncharacteristic of the pervasive unhappiness and misery characteristic of a major depressive episode. The thought content associated with grief generally features a preoccupation with thoughts and memories of the deceased, rather than the self-critical or pessimistic ruminations seen in a major depressive episode. Also in grief, self-esteem is generally preserved, whereas in a major depressive episode, feelings of worthlessness and self-loathing are common, okay? Also, if self-derogatory ideation is present in grief, it typically involves perceived failings related to the deceased. For example, not frequently visiting, not telling the deceased how much he or she was loved. It's more along those lines. If a bereaved individual thinks about death and dying, such thoughts are generally focused on the deceased and possibly about joining the deceased. Okay. Whereas in a major depressive episode, such thoughts are focused on ending one's life because of feelings of worthlessness, undeserving of life, or just really being unable to cope with the pain of depression. So, I wanted our listeners to hear that again and just really understand those differences between depression and grief. Now, I would encourage any of our listeners who are significantly depressed to seek out therapy. And I've done that in many of our psychology corners. Aaron knows that. And I'm saying that again. I really encourage you to do that. Now, usually persons going through normal grief don't need therapy. Although, look, talking to a therapist wouldn't hurt. I'll give you an example. Many of my clients have lost their spouses, their husbands, their wives, but they still want me to work with them as they go through the process of grief. Okay. And a lot of that is normalizing the different experiences that I mentioned above. Is feeling numb normal? Is feeling devastated and relieved normal? Yes, it is. So again, you don't have to do therapy, but it wouldn't hurt. Okay. So And just like I did at the beginning of this episode, I was so thankful for everyone who filled in, and again, just super thankful to Aaron. He was great. He said, take as much time as you need. I've got this covered. And you want to talk about helping with the grieving process. I'll also say this, I went to Central Florida Comic-Con with Aaron in January, not long after my mom passed. And honestly, I'm just going to tell you guys, it absolutely needed. Got to spend time with him, Greg McLaughlin, the Robo Base Card podcast, and just it was such a good, positive distraction, and I just really appreciated that time with Aaron, with Greg, and just geeking out with other, pop culture fans and stuff like that. So. I just really appreciate you, brother, for all that and allowing me the time in the Psychology Corner to talk about grief tonight.
Oh, brother, I know you've been through a lot the last month or two, and it's been I know it hasn't been easy. So it's good to have you back. But I wish there was always, I try to talk every time I talking to another friend of mine who's going through stuff right now too, and you just always wish there was that magic thing you could say to make things better, but all you can do is just be there for somebody. And I wanted to give you your time, your space, and be there for you as well. So we always said our family comes first, and I never wanted the show to be a distraction from you through the healing process. So
we say it and we live it. We really
yes, we do.
When you have stuff with your wife and your parents and your kids, we definitely, switch it up. And same thing for me. We've done it. And so Aaron and I don't just say it, but we live it. And Aaron did exactly what he said. I'm a psychologist, and I've been there with parents, and there are no magic words to say, but if you're just there with them, that's huge. And that's what Aaron did the whole way. So there was no, pressure on him or any of our listeners, please, to feel like you got to come up with something magical. But if you're just there for people, and that's what Aaron was and always has been for me. So I love you for that, brother. And again, just, so thankful that we can do this too, not just cons, but recordings like this. These are good ways to cope. And I tell my clients that instead of, here's the list, right, Aaron? Alcohol, marijuana, pornography, gambling, food, sports, shopping, prescription medication, cigarettes. You can cope with those. I don't. Instead, I'm going to go to Comic-Cons with you and record podcasts and just avoid trouble.
Yeah.
And I would encourage our listeners to do the same. So there you go.
There we go. There we go. Oh, David, if somebody wants to talk more about the grief for your Psychology Corner or even just Star Wars with you, how would they go about doing that?
Absolutely. Two ways, at Twitter, right? On Twitter, at David_Modders, MODDERS. There is an S at the end. And then also Instagram. Just look for my name, David Modders.
Very good. Very good. And of course, if you want to talk to me, of course, you can always hit me up on Twitter at TAHarris121079. That's the best place to do that. Well, got to end it the same way, my brother.
I've listened to every one that you've done with our guest hosts, and I've personally messaged them and thanked them for enduring what I usually endure, and they were such good sports. So I'm ready.
There we go. All right. Well, as you know, it is time for our Star Wars dad joke of the week. So this week, I got one ready. Here we go. Which Jedi became a rock star?
Okay. Which Jedi became a rock star?
Which Jedi became a rock star? Give up?
I give up.
Bon Jovi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh my gosh.
It's my Sith. I'll cut him in half.
It's so, oh my gosh. Oh, you love this.
I have too much fun with this. You know that. Oh, David, my brother, it's been a blast.
Absolutely. Absolutely, buddy.
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening and for your support and for all y'all do. Y'all are the best. You're the greatest. We appreciate each and every single one of you. Do something kind to somebody this week. It'll change your life, even if it's just a smile. Smile at somebody. You never know what kind of day that person's having. So, well, with that, remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.